Welcome to UC Today. My name's David Dungay. Today I'm joined by Mark Bunnell, COO of Nuwave. Welcome to the show, Mark. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Fantastic. So we're in August now, Mark. The theme for August is the best Microsoft Teams apps of 2023. We're going to be talking about iPilot. But before we get into that conversation, I want you to give us a bit of an introduction to yourself, the business, but also why iPilot is such a good foundational tool for people within the Microsoft Teams ecosystem right now, and what you're doing to really enable some of these applications.
Yeah, it sure can. So again, Mark Bunnell, Chief Operating Officer here at Nuwave. So I handle all the day-to-day operations of the global business and the architecture of our iPilot software platform. And really, iPilot is kind of changing the way that services are procured, everything on demand, and especially for teams where we provision DR and OC and all the other feature functionality that goes along with that. And so over the last 5+ years, we've really been honing in the feature set so that there are no blockers to adopting Teams voice, and so being able to toggle on all the intricate feature sets that are necessary for end customers, and also giving partners and operators a Teams practice to then support their customers. So we really kind of solve all the use cases, and iPilot is the foundational aspect of how people go to market with Teams. And then based on today's conversation, we're going to kind of preview a little bit of what's coming next and how that foundation, how we're building that skyscraper on top of that foundation.
And of course, part of that foundation, or a critical part of that foundation, is of course security. We're seeing a lot of evolution in this market space right now, and we're going to talk a little bit around how you're helping secure the modern day work environment. So, Mark, let's get straight into it then. Let's talk about how high up the list of priorities security is today when it comes to securing that modern workplace we spoke about when it comes to Microsoft Teams.
Yeah, that's a huge focal point for us. As we just looked at Inspire, security is a huge focus for Microsoft. And so that's obviously on the minds of all the customers and things that are out there. And so security is a crucial part of the modern workplace, especially when using Teams. And so every organization is different. They have different employee sets. They how people access their information. And so with all the threats out there, security is first and foremost on our mind, and we're building out the complete security module and services to help protect our customers. So not only to procure the services, but configure the services and then be able to manage and monitor those going forward. And so there's a lot of things to take into account and understand. Some of those things are like user access controls, how you deal with guest access, data loss prevention policies, app permissions that are connecting to Teams and things, mobile device security, audit logs and monitoring, data backup and recovery, compliance with regulatory requirements, security awareness training. So there's a lot of different aspects of security that people have to take into account, because you need to be able to monitor that security clear down to the employee level, because that's actually where most of the threats come from. Is these phishing and other things that employees click on that then gives access into their environment. So we want to be able to make sure that we're able to help our customers and partners secure their data and information as we move forward, from a really nice, clean dashboard.
Mark, you mentioned several areas there, which I think really illustrates just how sort of complex and far-reaching this problem of security is, and to have a partner that can kind of cover all of that is so essential, for especially those partners out there who might not have those security skills kind of in-house, or many security skills in-house. Maybe we could pick at that a little bit, that security module and what you're doing around iPilot a little bit more, just to how you're really enabling your customers, your partners, to really take these security services to market.
Yeah, so basically, this security module is kind of born out of our own needs, and so obviously as a carrier and operator ourselves, and providing these types of services, we had to go through full ISO 27001, 27017, 27018, and 27701, which is the new cloud ISO for cloud providers. And so, we went through all of those certifications and audits and things ourselves to put all these things in place. And we, found that there's, a gap in the market and a real need for these types of things. And so, we were able to then take that experience and going through, all of those things that companies need to be able to provide then, an ability to manage and procure these services in iPilot.
So, Mark, we've just had Microsoft Inspire, and Microsoft have laid out their intentions around their sort of security going forward. How is Constellation really keeping up with that, and how are you angling Constellation to make sure you're mapping towards what Microsoft are up to?
Yeah, I mean, Constellation maps, directly with the Microsoft security product suites. So we wanted to really make sure that it was very comprehensive. And so Constellation directly integrates with Microsoft security workloads such as Intra, Defender, Intune, Priva, Sentinel, and Purview. And we utilize these tools to provide robust security, solutions that are available for organizations of any size. And so, with this approach, we make sure that organizations can comply with the necessary regulations and responsibilities associated with being a cloud service provider or consumer of the services.
Yeah. Of course, we're seeing plenty of new tools hit the market, especially in the AI sector. And of course, at Inspire, we just found out the latest pricing for Copilot, which will be available fairly shortly for users. How is AI though? How is that impacting the landscape? Is this something that people really need to think about carefully?
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, AI is obviously the buzz right now. Everybody's talking about it, trying to figure out what it can do, how it can help. And it's really a double-edged sword. I mean, AI is going to continue to evolve and learn, and it's transformed the security landscape through bolstering threat detection, enabling behavior analysis, analytics, automating incident reporting, user authentication, endpoint protection. All of those kinds of things, are for the positive. But there's also the negative side of AI, which you're talking about how AI is being used to actually have attacks or do attacks, right? And so you want protection, but it's also being used maliciously as well. You start looking at privacy concerns when you're using AI for security purposes, and how that involves the processing and analyzing of vast amounts of user data. How do you protect your trade secrets when people within your organization are using the tools and populating your information into the AI tools, and then they accidentally get leaked. And then there's lots of other complexity that comes along with AI, because you have to train and teach it what you want it to do. So you could have an AI bias when you're training it based on the person who's doing the teaching of the AI, and then other complexity with algorithms that make it difficult to understand, leading to potential blind spots in your security practice. So and then skills gaps. So people that are capable of understanding AI and how to train it and how to use it. And those people are really hard to come by right now, because obviously all the big companies are trying to get as much talent in that arena as possible. And so finding engineers and things for your organization might be a little bit difficult. So again, it's a very two-edged sword. It has a lot of positive, and there are also some negatives that can come with it.
Yeah, I think the thing that strikes me the most is just the speed of evolution here with these tools, and the kind of the broadening of the attack vectors as well, and how that's going to continue to evolve. So I'm really interested in fact, Nuwave's approach to this. As this landscape evolves, how are you positioning yourselves to make sure you kind of continue to stay ahead of this security curve, if you like, and meet those evolving needs of your customers?
Yeah, sure. So we generated our program internally called Constellation, and it's all around security and protection. And so it's not only helping customers to establish an ISMS, practice, right? Your ISO, security practices within your organization. All those things that I mentioned at the beginning of this call, all of those things need to be factored in. And so we developed Constellation to really set up and walk customers through exactly all the things that they need to have in place, so that they can then go through an actual audit to get certification and pass that security audit. And we have teams that can work with and help you go through those audits, so that you can get your own ISO certification. And then it becomes the management and monitoring of your program as you move forward, because we like to think that when you build a program, you're going to be as close to 100% as possible. But with AI and other things and new threats emerging all the time, it's an arms race. So there will be times and circumstances that you just can't protect against, and maybe you do get breached. But then if you do get breached, then how are you managing the incident? How are you, working to make sure that you're dealing with those incidents properly, and that you're protecting and mitigating those threats and things that might happen in the future? So it's not just about prevention, but it's about the management and the response that's proper if something does happen.
Well, I'm really interested in the skill set needed to use a service like Constellation. We mentioned earlier, there is a big skills gap in the market. A lot of the big companies are hoovering up some of those security skills. What kind of skills do your partners or customers need to use Constellation? Do they need a deep level of security understanding, or is it sort of available to all?
I mean, it's available to all, and that's where Constellation really comes in, because there are skills gaps there. Not everybody is a security expert, and so if security is necessary, you have to have it. And if you don't have the people that have a deep knowledge or understanding of security, that's where a Constellation is very helpful, because we have a deep bench of experts on the team that when they're putting this program in place, they're also training and educating you on all the different things with your program, how to go through it, how to deal with it, and what things to be, looking at that you should be aware of, because you don't know what you don't know until somebody that's an expert really can kind of come in and educate you on how to be better protected in the future. So those are definitely all things that Constellation provides.
Fantastic. So, Mark, we're coming towards the end of the conversation today, but there'll be lots of people watching this conversation, thinking about their own business or their customers' businesses, and wondering, what questions should I be asking myself to really get the ball rolling here? What would you say to those people? What should they be asking themselves to make sure they've got themselves secure today, they've got something to secure themselves for tomorrow, and particularly around the Microsoft ecosystem as well?
Yeah, there's really a lot of questions that come up, through the process, because security has so many different facets and functions of what is needed. But I think some of the main questions would be, how can we ensure that all of our users and devices are properly, managed and monitored? Are our service compliant with international data protection regulations? How can I leverage AI to enhance our security measures? Are we prepared to quickly respond and quickly and effectively to security threats? I mean, again, that goes in with, if something does happen, how are we dealing with it? That's really critical, because, when something does happen, you have to mitigate it, you have to, deal with it, but then you also have to make sure you're reporting it properly to maintain your certification. So that's another one. And then how can I future-proof our operations in light of the ongoing, kind of developments in AI and data protection? So this is always going to be evolving. It's like I said, it's an arms race. And so this is something that you can't just set it and forget it. You have to be diligent, and you have to keep educating yourself, through, for the foreseeable future, right? It's not going to stop.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's of course, so how do you deal with it when it happens? Because inevitably it will happen to everyone at some point, I'm sure. So, Mark, it's been a great discussion. Thank you for joining me and sharing some of your insights.
Yeah, great. Thanks for having me.
And thank you for watching. You've been watching me, David Dungay, on UC Today. If you liked today's conversation, please give us a like and a share on social media. That's it from me. See you next time.